afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. And I'd also like to welcome our friends and fellow Rotarians joining via Zoom. At this time, I'd like to start our meeting by having you all rise and we take a moment of silence to honor fellow Rotarian Doug Neckers, who sadly passed away on November 22nd after contracting coronavirus. He was a Toledo Rotarian since September 2009. Many of you knew Doug from his work as a chemist, as well as his comment in the Blade. If you'd help us remember him with this moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Chad Rutkowski to come to the podium to deliver reflection, and Karen Strammel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. See Chad. Okay, we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Karen. Our meeting sponsor for this month is Spartan Chemical. So I'd like to thank John Romer for that, and also to thank Brent Kuzno with Browning Kuzno for being the December green sponsor. Does anyone have any visitors with us today?
Yes, President Cindy, I have two guests today. The first is Chris Hill. He's I call him a big executive go-getter guy with KeyBank. It's his first time here today. And then Alec Thompson, who's the executive director for the Oregon
Economic Development Foundation.
That's right.
All right.
So, thank you.
All right, welcome. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Yes, we do. We have Joe Ludwig from the Maumee Club, and he'll be up here in a bit to help deliver a presentation. At this time, I'm super excited to invite Steve Miller up to the podium to give us an update on our next venue where we'll be meeting.
Good afternoon, everybody. We've got some exciting news today. Starting January 9th, we're going to be moving over to a new venue. And these gentlemen over here have a video we're going to show you real quick.
What is home? Home is where the heart is. Maybe it is just four walls, a ceiling, and a floor, but think about what happens here. A building is made of bricks and beams. A home is made of hopes and dreams. For more than 110 years, Toledo Rotary has met in many places, but one thing remains the same. Home is where important conversations begin. When Rotarians gather to discuss, to share a meal, to learn and celebrate, to create memories and create impact around the world, wherever we are home. The magic thing about home is that it might feel good to leave, but it feels even better to come back. It's time to show the world that we have a new, vibrant energy, a big, bold vision, an imagination that everything is possible. And it's time for a new home. Toledo Rotary deserves a truly elegant space to host conferences and committee meetings, community leaders, professional development, or a casual conversation between Rotarians, here in the heart of the Glass City. And now, we are celebrating a new chapter. Following extensive renovations, there's no question the new building is ready for the Rotary Club of Toledo. But it will be the people that grace this space that make it more than just a place to meet. Rotarians will make it home. Welcome home, Toledo Rotary.
The Lucas County Board of Commissioners invested $61.6 million to convert the old Seagate Convention Center to what is now called the Glass City Center. We have a ballroom at 16,000 square feet that can seat 900. So hopefully our Rotary Club is not going to be quite that big, but we're going to divide it into to one third section. We're going to have our old salad bar buffet that everyone came to love at the old Park Inn Hotel. This is going to be a great opportunity for us to host you as the general manager of the Glass City Center and Huntington Center, but also an opportunity for Rotary to come back to, I think, its roots of what it was. I think the Park Inn, if I recall, we were there for almost 12 years, and it was a great meeting space. So looking forward to it. January 9th, the parking will still be included underneath. The entrance has changed, so if you are not been to the Glass City Center, the parking entrance is not on Summit Street any longer. It's actually on Monroe at St. Clair. So don't try and pull in on the Summit side because you won't be able to get in. There's just a big park in the way now. Looking forward to seeing you and looking forward to a brand new year and a brand new Rotary meeting space. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Steve has been very generous with his time and his staff and helping us get prepared for this. And I'd like to also throw out a thank you to Kevin Mullen for putting that video together in case anybody didn't know whose voice that was. I'd like to thank Donna Bogan for sponsoring the holiday party we had this last Friday. It was quite a hit. The venue was fantastic. Many Rotarians there. The food display was not only beautiful, but very tasty. And we had almost 90 members join us, so it was really great. So thank you all for attending. And for those that didn't make it, try to join us next year. And I'd like to throw out a thank you to Jackie. She did a great job choosing the site and working through all the logistics. In this week's Spoke, we included a ballot for our club elections. You may see the little pieces of paper on your table. You can either vote using that piece of paper for this, or you'll be able to access it on the website or in the Spoke. But we need to have everyone voted or those pieces of paper returned by Monday, December 12th, so that we can publish the results in the December 15th Spoke. And at this time, I'd like to ask past President District Governor Joe Ludwig and past President District Governor and past President of our club, Helen Balanis, will be presenting Sharon Skilleter with a major donor award from the RI Foundation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate the opportunity to come and visit many of my friends here at Toledo Rotary. It's good to get back live and see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. And it's certainly, I commend your club. Recently the district had a peace conference that Toledo Rotary was heavily involved in with Curtis Church and Tim Ryan and a number of others, and made it a very successful conference. And I commend you because I don't think without the Toledo Rotary Club that conference would have been as outstanding as it was. And my hats are off to you for that. And I also, before we get into the presentation, just want to congratulate you on the continuing global grant process you people are working on. Toledo Rotary rocks, and there's no doubt about it in my book. You have a unique way of doing things with your own foundation sometimes, but you're part of the district, you're loved in the district, and your big heart of mine is with you in this district. And at this time, like I said, I'm going to call Helen up and let her explain a little bit about the Major Donor Award and that stuff. And I don't like to talk a lot anyway, so I'll just walk out of the background here.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
My position in the district is the Major Donor Chair. And for some of the new Rotarians here to our club, there are two basic foundations. One, Toledo Rotary has its own foundation, unlike 95% of all Rotary clubs in the world, because we're big, we've been around since 1912, and we have very generous contributors. For the majority of Rotary clubs, when their generous donors want to give money to promote Rotary projects, they give to the Rotary International Foundation. So this is what we're talking about today with Sharon. Past President Sharon Skilleter, over a number of years, has contributed $10,000 to the Rotary International Foundation. It deserves an applause. You know, there's many programs that you hear about. There's the Paul Harris Fellowship where you could give $1,000 a year, and over, let's see who's good with math. How many years would it take to get to $10,000? 10 years. You got it, Alex? God love you. So some people do it that way. Some people do it with a gift of appreciated stock. Some people do it over 2 or 3 years. Our own past president, Eric Fankhauser, when he became president, if I can say, he awarded 15 Paul Harris Fellows to the people who were helping him in his presidency, which helped us all to become major donors. So in this giving season that we're in, think about some of the programs that you'll see that the Rotary International Foundation participates in. I won't take up the time to list all of them, but they're all so worthy, as is our own foundation. So I'd like to call Sharon up and present her with a beautiful hand engraved with her name, Major Donor Crystal Award. So for you, Sharon, and here's the box. And this is the Major Donor Award, which is similar to the Paul Harris, but you see she has a diamond here for her first $10,000. Thank you, Sharon. Would you like to say it?
It's very kind of you all. Thank you very much. It's so easy to give to Rotary. Even our own foundation here, and we'll be hearing a lot about that today. Knowing the good job that our FAC committee does and the type of things like congratulations on the successful peace conference. These are the types of things that we do to make this world a better place, and we do it locally, but in this case, sometimes we also get a chance to do it internationally. So I thank you all for your kind wishes. Thank you.
That's really outstanding, Sharon, how generous you are. Thank you, Helen and Joe. Now for our big program today, Foundation Day, I'd like to call up Brian Kennedy to the podium.
Thank you, President Cindy. As Helen mentioned, the Rotary International established the Paul Harris Fellow in 1957 to acknowledge individuals who contributed $1,000 to the Rotary International Foundation. Today, I have the pleasure of presenting to President Cindy her Paul Harris Fellow, as with her pin and certificate. Forgive me for trying to hide it on you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And since you all missed the photo op in a minute, let me turn this around. Today we're doing a presentation to Imagination Station in regards to a $10,000 grant for their Toledo Tinkers program. In presence today we have Lori Hauser, Kim Sidwell, and Michelle Klinger from Imagination Station. I would like to invite Michelle and Kim up, if you wouldn't mind, to say a few words in regards to the grant and how it's impacting Imagination Station.
Thank you, Brian. On behalf of Lori, our esteemed CEO, and our board and our team, thank you to the Toledo Rotary Foundation for trusting in us to deliver on a fabulous program that really takes tinkering to a whole new level. We appreciate your trust and your generosity. I'm sure all of us in this room have tinkered at some time in our life. We've taken things apart, maybe not put it back as successfully as we took it apart, didn't take our iPhone and took photos of the way it should look. All of that is tinkering. And we learn from putting things together, taking them apart, building things, and using tools in order to do it. Tinkering is very important, and there's a population in our community that doesn't have access. I remember going down to my dad's basement, his workshop, and sitting there and tinkering, and he would show me how to take something apart, put it together. Not everybody, every child is that fortunate. In 2016, we opened our Idea Lab and our tinkering space, and it allows kids and families to come in free of charge. It comes with admission, and they can tinker. They can tinker with all kinds of supplies. If you look at the wall of our tinkering space, it is bin after bin after bin after bin with stuff, most of which in our homes we want to get rid of. But we find value in that because kids have experiences. There was a little girl by the name of Malia. She came in and she was doing a project that required a soldering iron. Scared to death. Scared to death. And so our team is there to facilitate, not there to take over, but to facilitate. And they helped her get used to that soldering iron. Before they knew it, before she knew it, the facilitator, the team member's hand was no longer on her hand. She had that soldering iron and she was soldering all by herself. And what a great feeling, something that maybe we take for granted. But this child experienced something they would not have otherwise experienced. And the basis for our tinkering space, we took it one step further because access is so important in our community, so very important. And sometimes we have to go to the neighborhoods and the kids and the families that can't get to us. So with the help of IMLS, which I want to get it right, Institute of Museum and Library Services, we got a grant in 2020 to purchase a van and turn it into a mobile tinkering space. And we decided partners, you got to have partners to do something like this. And I want to get my list right because these grant partners are everything to us. University of Toledo, Northwest State Community College, the Sophia Quintero Art and Cultural Center, Water for Ishmael, and we worked with the Boys and Girls Club and the Toledo Public Library, Toledo Lucas County Public Library. And what we did was have community conversations and find out what is it that's needed and how do we go about it. And these conversations really shed a lot of light. They helped us be culturally responsive so that we knew that the kids wanted to have their own ideas as far as what they wanted to do. Our first program was with the Boys and Girls Club, and they were, and still are, really appreciative of this partnership. Going in for an afternoon, the kids are between the ages of 11 and 13, and having these, what we call tinkering takeovers. Now, we're going to skip to the next slide. So what we have are, I think we went to, can you go back one? Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. Oh, geez, my self-sufficiency is really bad, I'll tell you. Don't you get tired of being self-sufficient? I mean, just once. Okay, our grant partners. So now I'm going to go forward. There we go. And it looks like we have a little bit of formatting. So let me talk to you about what this van does. When it goes to the Boys and Girls Club, we take the equipment out of the back end of it. It's all retrofitted. And it will have 3D printers. It will have computers, laser cutters, wire cutters, drill presses, screwdrivers. Some of those things we have in the drawer in our kitchen when we need them. Kids have never held these things before. They have never experienced it before. And we facilitate with them and help them choose a project that's important to them and then see it through. So with the Makers Clubs, this is the program that's at the Boys and Girls Club, ages 11 to 13. They meet 12 times a year, and they choose a specific project. And there was a little boy who decided he wanted to make a robotic fish that would take care of all the debris at the bottom of a river. Now, it was made to look like a robotic fish. It wasn't an operative robotic fish. Anyway, he worked on it for weeks, for months. And one day, we came in, and he sat there, and he was covering up all the robotics. And our team member said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "So the fish will think he's another fish." Like, duh, come on, not. And it's getting these kids to think about what is possible, about a robotic fish. We need to get him on our water transformational committee, about this fish that's going to clean the rivers. This is our future, and it's as simple as this. I said we partner with the library with our tinkering takeovers. That involves families. Families come, and they enjoy that time where they can go ahead. Thank you, Michelle. There we go. Honest to goodness, you'd think this was the first time we ever did this. So we partner with Northwest State Community College, and they come in with all the supplies, and we meet at specific libraries, and it's promoted ahead of time, so the families come and they can work with this. And this is a time not for mom and dad to sit back and play on their phone. This is a time for them to be engaged with their kids and figure these things out. So what's the next step? It sounds like we've got a great program, we've got great partners. Well, we want to expand it. And I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and she's going to talk about you making that possible and helping us with that.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
And so one of the things that is so important to us at Imagination Station, and I know it's important to Rotary, is are we making an impact, and how do we know? And so we at Imagination Station make sure that we externally evaluate our programming, and especially this one as part of our Institute of Museum and Library Services grant. So we partner with an external evaluator called FARA, Formative Evaluation Research Associates up in Ann Arbor, and they help us with a lot of the work that we're doing. What you see here is just a sample of the results from the Tinkers program, specifically from the Makers Club. We collect surveys from the students, we do focus groups, and we even partner with the University of Toledo to do what's called a critical ethnography, where they come and they hang out with the students and really listen to them and observe to kind of see what the program is doing and how they're responding. That helps us be more culturally responsive with the students, but also helps us know that we're doing things that are on the right track, and where we're not, where we can tweak it. So these are just some of the things that kids have said about the program. The activities they've done have made them think differently about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And that was 92% of the students that participated. They learned to use a new tool. Tool literacy is a really big part of the program. Kim talked a lot about the soldering, but we have all kinds of high-tech equipment, including 3D printers and laser printers, but also drill presses and hammers and nails and screwdrivers, because we want these kids to be prepared with some job-ready skills when they get done. The Maker Club makes them want to learn more about doing science, and one of the most important things to me is that they learn persistence.
So a lot of these children have situations where they just feel like they aren't succeeding in things, and they get people to tell them all the time where they're messing up. Here, we like failure, right? Failure provides us with an opportunity to learn, and we're providing these students with some persistence. So when they fail, they don't give up. They keep trying until they get that fish that cleans the river. And then they're proud of themselves. They're proud of something that they made with their own two hands. In 2023, the funding that you're providing with the Rotary Club of Toledo Foundation is going to help us expand into some new neighborhoods. So back in 2021 and 22, we worked primarily, as Kim said, with the Boys and Girls Club in neighborhoods that were there were high poverty, but had large populations of Black and African American families. This year, we're going to work with a new population, or more new populations, of Hispanic and Latino families. And so we're working primarily in the Old South End and in East Toledo. And we have some new partners because of that. So Sophia Art and Cultural Center, Escuela Smart Academy, the City of Toledo, Walbridge and Navarre Parks, East Toledo Family Center, and of course, we will still be working with the Toledo Lucas County Public Library and some of the sites that they have as well. And in 2023, we're building a special center exhibition at the Science Center, and it's all over about Toledo's rich history of making and tinkering. So we want to talk about what are things that are made here in Toledo through the years, things that were manufactured right here in Toledo, because we're such a manufacturing hub. But we also are going to feature the projects created by these new tinkers that we're working with. And one of the greatest stories, this was so amazingly fun for me, is I was on the site visit with Rotarian Luke King, who's from the Vocational Services Committee. And he was talking with Jeff Lovewell, who's the program manager, and myself, and asking us some questions about the grant and how it was going to develop and what it was going to, how it was going to impact children. And a little girl was working across the room on a robot that she was making that writes. And she overheard us talking because she knows that Rotary is sponsoring the exhibit at Imagination Station. And she came up with her robot, and she looked at Jeff, and Jeff said, "Would you like to take that home?" And she said, "No, Mr. Jeff, I would like it to be in the exhibit that's going to be at the Science Center. Do you think it's good enough for that?" And he said, "Of course it is." And she was so excited. She goes, "That's great. And I can bring my whole family to see it?" And we said, "Absolutely." So I want you to know this money is making a huge impact. And it's already made an impact. And we haven't even built the exhibit yet. So thank you so much to the Rotary Club of Toledo Foundation and for all you're doing and for helping Imagination Station and the new tinkers and innovators of tomorrow.
Welcome to our annual Toledo Club Rotary Foundation Day. In the past, I've provided more detail, which would, much to everyone's effort, has always been challenging to display on the slides in front of us. Today, I'd like to focus on this slide, the general fund held at the Greater Toledo Community Foundation. Including the amounts would have made this nearly illegible, but I'll point out a few key amounts. In September 2012, on the far left, the balance was $2,350,000. At our high, one off, there we go, the balance was $4,668,000 at December 2021. Of course, we've all experienced the joys of the downturn in the market since that point, but I'm not one that can really forecast as to what we may see in the near future in regards to our balance. The increase in the fund balance over the past 10 years is what I feel our members should be most proud of. This fund balance and the annual campaign is what has allowed us to provide such an impact in our community. During the past 3 years, we have granted $593,000 to over 79 recipients. and we're currently budgeting for up to $250,000 in grants for the current fiscal year. There are many reasons for the growth that is visible on this graph. As we have presented in the past, some of the largest increases have been requests from estates, many of which we did not even know to expect. Then there is our Legacy League, which has notified us of the inclusion of the foundation in their estate planning. At current count, we have 22 members in the Legacy League, some of which I can see in this room. In addition to these gifts, we've received funds in memorial and in honor of individuals and members, and we also have 56 individuals who've become a 1912 Fellow. And then, of course, we have our numerous members that are always participating in our annual campaign, which includes the President's Club. The annual campaign is vital to our mission in the community and the work that we do. I would like to take a moment and touch on the 1912 Fellowship, as the trustees recently updated the policy for this program. In 2019, the fellowship was created with the idea of it being treated as our club's equivalent to Rotary International's Paul Harris Fellow. Since its creation, the trustees have wanted to reduce the barriers to participation by eliminating the prior requirement of 2 payments of $500. And I think there we go. Sometimes technology does not want to work with me. There we go. And I passed. Members are now free to choose, gotta love it. Members are now free to choose how they would like to remit the $1,000 during the fiscal year. As we do not have the same number of members at our Rotary International to do the tracking of receipts, we are still feeling it's prudent to keep it to 1 year for that $1,000 contribution. And we do intend to make a small update to our website to encourage donors to add additional notes with the type of donation they're doing. That helps us with the tracking at GTCF. Let's see, through there. The trustees continue to work on improving communication and recognition for the 1912 program in the spoken meetings, as well as major donors, such as today's presentation for Sharon, and PHFs. Back to our annual campaign. During the past fiscal year, we've provided $231,000 in grants to 29 organizations. While I would like to acknowledge all these past year's recipients, in addition to Imagination Station's presentation today, we've invited additional grant recipients to say a few short words in regards to how our grant has impacted their organization, our community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dave Gerke from the Toledo School of Arts. It's in regards to a grant we provided for the performing arts equipment. Thanks, Dave.
Good afternoon. Toledo School for the Arts was established in 1999 with 27 students in the old Secor Hotel. It was a charter school. That bill had been passed the year before, allowing charter schools to exist. Prior to that, I was a touring musician and came home and bought Rick's Drum Shop with a friend of mine, and we opened up a place called Dave's Drum Depot. And I have to tell you that I enjoyed every single opportunity lent to me in the 80s and 90s. I will not list them at this moment. So I started as a music teacher at Toledo School for the Arts. And I found the next year I was teaching math and music. And I had no idea what I was going to do when I saw my assignment. But the lady that helped us start the school, Lee Reamer, she had this idea of blending the arts and integrating the arts in everything we do, much like y'all do over at the Science Center. We didn't get a van, by the way. We're going to work on that one. So my first assignment, 3 years later, they said, why don't you consider becoming the development director? I couldn't spell philanthropy. And it was a reluctant board of directors that allowed me to try this gig. And anybody that knew me in the 80s and 90s would agree, including myself. And So my first assignment was to go to the Rotary. The Rotary used to meet at the old Zenobia back at the time. And the guests would eat in front, like Last Supper style, right? With everybody looking at you. And I never looked at the audience because you don't want people to watch you eat, and it's just a weird thing. And, you know, I was a chubby kid. I know it's hard looking at me now, but I was really self-conscious about that. So I didn't really even look out at the audience. So it was time for me to thank them for the 2 cellos that the Rotary bought the school at the time. And I knew exactly what I had to say. I didn't write anything down. I had no notes. And I walked up to the podium and I looked out at the audience. And here, over on this side, was a couple of brothers that did exactly what I did in the 80s. And I was in the band, so I got invited to the parties. And I'm like, whoa. I looked over here, and there was another one, and another one. And I thought, okay, don't look at them. And I put my head down, and before I started my thank you, I said, so this is where we all end up in our 40s, and at the Rotary. And I can tell you, the Rotary has been a consistent supporter of Toledo School for the Arts since we started, and we cannot thank you enough. Because of amazing support of organizations like you, our community school continues to flourish. As a charter school, and I won't get into the whole politics of all this, as a charter school, we operate mainly on the state allocated funds. We don't get any of the local tax millage. And so that's why I've always been able to have a job, because they need extra money, and we raise money in the fundraising department. And we operate on about half of what traditional public schools get every year. But in spite of that, TSA has flourished. This year, the Art Schools Network gave us our 3rd designation as an exemplary school. There's only 2 of them in Ohio that have received that status. They conduct a study, a very rigorous study, every 5 years to make sure you can still be a part of this club. Cincinnati has a school that's a part of the club. The organization is nationwide. Orange County, I think they spend $30,000 per year per student compared to our $6,500. And we are in amazing company, and we're just so honored to be a part of that. This year, we received the Great Schools College Success Award, which means that over 86% of our students qualified and were accepted at a major university. And we're really proud of that. So it's not just an art school. Our Quiz Bowl is #1 in the state this year, and we're #5 in the nation for the small school category. We now serve 700 students from 29 different school districts as far away as Findlay. And in the classroom, I learned something. I learned that what my friend Dr. Durant would say, the fix is in the mix. It's this mix of kids that we've been able to maintain throughout all these years. I'll tell a story. I don't have a PowerPoint. But I was teaching 8th notes one day to a group of kids in my class. And I'm turning around at the whiteboard and I'm writing out 8th notes. And there was a hole in the window of our studio. And it was cold in there. And one of the students, a young girl from Sylvania, only child, 2-parent family, said, "Dang, Gerke, turn the heat up on here. It's cold." And I said, "Nah, it's that broken window. I got to get that fixed." And at the time, we didn't have custodians. And I was waiting for my dad to have a free afternoon to come down and help me, do what he did, because I'm not good at any of that stuff. And as I turned back around, another little girl said to her, "You've never had your gas cut off, have you?" And I'm like, bending my ear to listen to this story. She said, "What do you mean, your gas cut off?" And she said, "Well, we can't pay the gas bill. Our gas gets shut off." "Well, how do you heat your house?" "We use space heaters, and we all stay in the living room, and we close out all the other rooms." And she said, "Isn't that dangerous?" And she said, "Yeah, Thea, that's why kids in the inner city die in fires, because of stuff like that." And I'm thinking, I'm teaching 8th notes, and this conversation's happening? And I got chills, and at that moment, I realized I could never put a phrase to it, but the fix was in the mix. The mix of all these kids coming from so many socioeconomic areas and so many backgrounds, and sharing these stories on a daily basis. We maintain that today, and I'm so very proud of that. 6 months from now, we will celebrate the biggest project we've ever done, a $10 million expansion. We're calling it the Adams Street Corridor Project. We will have our gallery, our maker space, our school store, and a black box theater, not a theater per se, more of a studio, black box studio, all along the Adams Street Corridor. We've made about $2 million in renovations over the summer to expand our school. Our lunchroom was in the basement, and we studied a lot of stuff about school shootings and the whole Alice technique, and we realized that that was not a safe space. So we were able to move our cafeteria to second floor. There's 5 doors. There's 5 ways to get out of there, and it's a lot safer environment. So phase 1 is over. 6 months from now, phase 2 will be there. We want you to come and see it. We think it'll knock your socks off. It's transformative. I believe that there's not a school in the United States that does what we're going to be doing in that space. We'll be offering classes in the evening to our neighborhood and renting out our recording studio, our fabric shop, all those other things, because tinkering is important. And we hope to get the advanced tinkerers hanging out at our place. 3 years ago, the Rotary made a grant to TSA. And I think every 3 years we ask, and every 3 years you say yes. We hope that will continue, especially when I order the van. You purchased rolling instrument racks for us. And when Mr. Mullen called me about being here, he said, talk about what you got, talk about how it impacted your community. Those rolling instrument racks allow kids not to just throw their instrument in the bottom of the van when we go. All right, we have a van. Not a good one. So it allows us to move the instruments safely without worrying about throwing them in a bus seat or whatever. We also purchased some LED lights, and the benefit was that we can now see the kids when they're on stage dancing. Wireless microphones, so our students could be heard. And the coolest thing was a thing called a stop blade table saw, a revolutionary thing where when the blade is cranking and when human flesh gets within millimeters or whatever those little tiny things are, when it gets really close, the blade drops down and no one can be injured. So for the last 3 years, we have not graduated a student with less digits than they came in with. That's really important. I can't be more proud of serving this institution and being an agent of the work that they do. I can't be more proud to be a Toledo person. I live in Oregon, but a Northwestern Ohio guy. And I cannot be prouder than to be up here saying thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I would like to acknowledge one of our other fellow Rotarians who received a grant, but in the efforts of being sensitive to everyone's time, Mike, I just wanted to thank you. Mike McIntyre stood up at the last minute to be a pinch hitter. We had a conflict. But for this point, Mike, forgive me. We'll continue. I don't want to cut our annual campaign share short. Donations to our annual campaign have had a large impact on the calculation of budget grants, as we use the average of the past 3 years' annual campaigns. I'm happy to report this past year's campaign has doubled since fiscal 2020, and it was also a sizable increase since prior fiscal year 2021. I now have the pleasure of introducing this year's annual campaign chair, Kevin Mullen, who will provide his vision for the upcoming annual campaign. Kevin?
Thank you, Brian. I have notes. Watch yourself. Just quick math, otherwise this joke doesn't work. It's still not going to work either way. What's 250 times 4? Okay, perfect. What does Mount Rushmore and the 1912 Foundation, 1912 Fellows have in common? Mount Rushmore and 1912 fellows. What do they have in common? It's 4 presidents. You'll get it on the way home. It's great. I am proud to serve as the chair of this year's annual campaign. For one thing, it's about damn time I got involved in something within this club. Some of you know that I've worked in nonprofit leadership and development for the last almost 15 years. I've solicited literally millions of dollars from individuals, organizations, and grant-making organizations. Throughout that time, I've seen few funders take managing their funds, ensuring their investment is strategic and impactful, and with such diligence in their process as Toledo Rotary. When I joined the club back in 2015, I'll be honest, I joined for 2 reasons. 1, the inspiring leaders who were in the room. And 2, the opportunity to network with those inspiring leaders and like-minded professionals in the community. It wasn't until sitting in the room with the Youth Services Committee and participating in the site visits that I realized how important the work of this organization is. Not just in our community, but truly around the world. Hearing Kim and Michelle talk about the important work that our club is supporting at Imagination Station, or Dave highlight our investment in growing the arts through donations to Toledo School for the Arts, it's hard not to get inspired about what's possible through donations to Toledo Rotary. Today, we officially launch our annual campaign with an intentional eye on where and how we can best support and grow the work of the Toledo Rotary Foundation and ultimately the Rotary Club of Toledo. The goal is simple: 100% participation. All in. Every member of the club making a donation that is significant to them. That could be $50 for a new member of the club. Perhaps it's stepping up to the President's Club at $250. Or if you've given at that level for a number of years, perhaps you'll consider becoming a 1912 fellow and making a $1,000 donation. I'm also not going to eliminate the possibility that you see the incredible work that our club is doing and you'd want to make an even larger contribution to grow our club's impact in the world. So with all that said, you are all invited to donate to the Rotary Club of Toledo's annual campaign. I don't know what just happened there. It needs some tinkering. Our motto is service above self. That's our organization's commitment to give everything it has to improve the lives of others. With your support of time, talent, and treasure, our club goes all in every day. And on behalf of the foundation trustees and the club directors, I'm asking you to do the same. The theme this year, if you haven't figured it out, is all in. We'll have more updates as the campaign progresses, but I appreciate your attention today and mostly your commitment and your investment tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. On behalf of the trustees, I'd like to thank you for leading this year's annual campaign. And I appreciate the work that you're all doing for our foundation as part of this. As a small plug, we've mentioned it in the past, since we're reaching the holidays, for Amazon Smile and Kroger Community Rewards have been mentioned. And please consider designating the Toledo Rotary Club Foundation as a charitable recipient of those organizations, if you'd be so inclined. Other than that, thank you for your patience. I'm running a little bit long, but I appreciate your attendance at the Foundation Day presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian and Kevin and Kim, Lori, and Michelle for joining us today, and Dave for presenting here. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to invite Chuck Mann up here to lead us in his Chuck Chuckles. We're going to be laughing.
Sometimes comedy needs to get somewhat serious. Not every meeting needs to end in endless guffaws. Sometimes we need to introduce a more sophisticated humor to ensure balance in what you hear and what we do here. The committee has worked hard on this, and here's the results of our efforts. Dominic?
Thank you, Chuck. That was really cute. Next week, we'll be back here at the main library, Monday, December 12th, when we'll be joined by Dr. Somerville, the president of Owens Community College. As a reminder, we have our monthly coffee connection tomorrow at the Onyx Cafe from 8 to 9. If you're able to make it, come join us. There's one committee meeting today. The Youth Services will be meeting in room 11, just over that way on the first floor. And to follow up with our presentation from Steve Miller, keep your eyes peeled in the Spoke and at future meetings for more announcements as we make our way to the Glass City Center. And with that, we are adjourned today. Yes. Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's just me or others, and you get into, giving and a little bit of complication because you have the end of the calendar year, and then Rotary runs on its fiscal year, July to June. I don't know if it would be helpful to send out to the members. I would be glad to have one. Given the last 3 years, the last 5 years, because every once in a while I know that I forget to give by the end of whichever 6 months, and maybe this helps us all see what we've given to Rotary.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bob.
I'm on it. Bob, it's 25,000 a year. Just last 6 months.
All righty, we are adjourned.
Thank you.